Welcome to a chilling journey through the 15 most haunted prisons in France, where dark histories and ghostly encounters intertwine. From the eerie whispers in the halls of Montluc Prison to the restless spirits of Chateau de Venant, these places are not just steeped in terror. They are alive with the souls of those who once suffered within their walls. Join us as we explore these spine-tingling locations, each with its own terrifying ghost stories and haunting past that continue to linger in the shadows. 1. Conciergerie Paris. The Conciergerie in Paris stands as a chilling monument to the terror of the French Revolution. For many, it was the final stop before the guillotine. Among its most famous prisoners was Marie Antoinette, whose ghost is said to haunt its shadowy halls. Visitors often speak of a sudden drop in temperature, as if the very air is thick with the sorrow of those who perished here. The sounds of faint whispers drift through the stone corridors, and some even claim to hear the soft rustle of silk as a phantom figure, dressed in the regal finery of the Queen, paces through the darkened halls, forever trapped in her final moments of imprisonment. Others report seeing fleeting glimpses of her face, pale and desperate, pressing against the cold, unforgiving walls of her cell. The oppressive atmosphere and flickering lights give the sense that the Conciergerie is a place where the past refuses to release its grip, leaving behind the souls of those who suffered within its walls. 2. Montluc Prison, Lyon, Montluc. Prison, located in Lyon, France, was a site of unimaginable cruelty during World War II, a place where resistance fighters were tortured and executed. The prison's dark history is said to have left a permanent mark on its walls, as evidenced by the ghostly encounters that continue to haunt the site. Paranormal investigators who have visited Montluc often report hearing cries and pleas for mercy echoing through its stone halls, voices that seem to come from prisoners long gone, some even speaking in German. Visitors also claim to witness shadowy figures, fleeting and ghostly, that appear to move through the prison's cold corridors. Some believe these apparitions are the spirits of those who met their untimely end at the hands of their captors. The oppressive silence of Montluc is often broken by strange noises, footsteps in empty cells, the distant clang of chains, and the soft murmur of voices in an unknown tongue. Despite the passage of time, Montluc's tragic history seems to linger, and many who enter report an overwhelming sense of dread and despair. 3. Chateau de Marseille. The Chateau de Venant, perched on a rugged island off the coast of Marseille, was once a fortress, later transformed into a prison. It is most famous for being the setting of The Count of Monte Cristo, where Edmond Dantes was unjustly imprisoned. However, the chateau's haunting is far more than literary fiction. Prisoners left to rot in its cold, damp cells are said to haunt its fortress-like walls. Tourists visiting the island often report hearing the echo of chains clinking and the faint groans of men long since dead. Some have seen figures, pale and gaunt, standing along the rocky shore, gazing out over the sea, forever yearning for freedom that was never granted to them. The air is heavy with an eerie sadness, and some have claimed that a cold, invisible hand seems to reach out and brush their skin as they walk through the cells. The ghosts of Chateau de Venant seem to wander endlessly, bound to the island, unable to escape their fate. 4. Maison Centrale de Clairvaux, Aube. The Maison Centrale de Clairvaux, once a peaceful abbey, became a notorious prison with a brutal reputation. Those who enter Clairvaux today speak of an overwhelming feeling of cold, as though the very walls are infused with sorrow. Some areas of the prison are so frigid that even the warmest clothing offers little comfort, and visitors often describe a pervasive sense of sadness and unease that fills the air. In the dead of night, the haunting chant of monks can be heard drifting through the corridors, their voices mournful, echoing the suffering endured by both the monks and the prisoners who were once held here. Unexpected apparitions of former prisoners are said to appear, their faces contorted in despair. The ghostly figures linger in the shadows, their eyes hollow, their presence a constant reminder of the torment that took place within these walls. Clairvaux's atmosphere remains thick with the sorrow of its past, and it is said that those who visit often feel as though they are not alone, an unsettling presence always just beyond sight. 5. Fort de Joux. Pontarlier. The Fort de Joux in Pontarlier was the site where Toussaint Louverture, the leader of the Haitian Revolution, was imprisoned in his final days. It is said that his spirit, filled with sorrow and longing for freedom, still haunts the fort. Visitors often report feeling an icy chill in his cell, a cold that seeps into their bones and refuses to dissipate. Those who have spent time at Fort de Joux have heard faint whispers of liberté in the silence, as if Louverture's spirit is still calling out for justice. Shadows dart through the cold stone corridors, and the fort is often shrouded in an eerie, oppressive silence. The air seems thick with an aura of sorrow, as if the fort is forever burdened by the fate of the prisoners who once endured its harsh conditions. Even the bravest souls who visit Fort de Joux report a feeling of being watched, as if Louverture himself is still pacing the halls, seeking the freedom he was never granted. 6. Bagne de Tulong. Tulong. The Bagne de Tulong was one of France's most infamous penal colonies, where countless prisoners endured unimaginable suffering. Ghosts of the past are said to linger within the mists that often rise from the waters surrounding the island. Visitors have heard the eerie clanking of chains in the distance, followed by the faint, sorrowful cries of those who perished in the brutal conditions. Some claim to see shadowy figures drifting through the fog, their forms barely visible, but their presence undeniable. These apparitions are believed to be the spirits of the prisoners who died here, their souls forever bound to the island. The oppressive silence of the prison is occasionally broken by inexplicable noises, footsteps echoing in empty cells, doors creaking on their hinges, and the distant sound of chains dragging across the ground. The ghosts of Tulong seem to haunt the very air, a constant reminder of the cruelty and suffering that took place within its walls. 7. Ile de Ré Prison. Ile de Ré. The Ile de Ré Prison, located on a small island off the western coast of France, was notorious for housing political prisoners, many of whom were subjected to torture and death. Today, the island is said to be haunted by the spirits of those who perished here. Visitors have reported seeing strange lights flickering in the distance on foggy nights, and ghostly figures appear, their faces twisted in agony. The cries of the tortured prisoners seem to echo through the night, carried by the wind across the desolate island. Some claim to feel an overwhelming sense of being watched, an oppressive presence that makes their skin crawl. The air is thick with an eerie sense of dread, and many leave the island with a deep feeling of unease, as if the spirits of those who suffered here are still searching for justice and peace. 8. Maison d'arrêt de Nîmes. Nîmes. The Maison d'arrêt de Nîmes, a prison with a dark history, is said to be haunted by the spirits of those executed within its walls. Guards and prisoners alike have reported strange occurrences, shadows moving in the cells, and the chilling sound of muffled cries. Cold spots are often felt in certain areas, and an eerie sensation fills the air, as if something unnatural is present. The spirits of those who suffered here seem to be trapped, unable to move on. Some visitors claim to see fleeting glimpses of ghostly figures standing in the corners of the cells, their faces pale and filled with sorrow. The atmosphere in Nîmes is oppressive, thick with the pain and suffering of those who were condemned to die. It's a place where the past is never truly gone, and the spirits of the lost remain bound to the prison. 9. Chateau de la Tournelle. Tours. The Chateau de la Tournelle, once a prison for political prisoners during the French Revolution, is now considered one of the most haunted locations in France. The ghostly apparitions of these prisoners are said to appear, forever reliving their final moments of despair. Visitors often report flickering lights and shadows, moving without explanation. The air is heavy with tension, and many describe an overwhelming sense of sorrow as they walk through the rooms once occupied by the imprisoned. Some have even seen ghostly figures standing in the windows, staring out at the world they could never escape. The chateau's tragic history lingers, and its ghosts seem to be forever trapped in their final moments, unable to rest. 10. Fort de Romainville. Fort de Romainville was a World War II detention center where countless prisoners suffered at the hands of the Nazis. The fort's dark history is still felt today, as the voices and cries of those who were held captive can still be heard in the dead of night. Whispers in German echo through the corridors, and strange lights flicker in the darkness, casting eerie shadows that seem to move on their own. Visitors often report an overwhelming sense of sadness, as if the weight of the suffering endured here still hangs in the air. The spirits of those who perished in the fort seem unable to move on, their pain and torment still lingering in the shadows. It is a place where history's horrors are never truly forgotten, and the past continues to haunt the present. 11. Prison. S Lazar, Paris. S Lazar Prison, once home to many women who suffered in its cruel confines, is said to be haunted by the spirits of those who perished there. Visitors often hear the ghostly sounds of footsteps echoing through the empty halls, followed by voices whispering in the darkness. Cold hands are said to touch those who walk through the prison's corridors, only to disappear when looked for. Many believe that the spirits of the women who were imprisoned here are unable to find peace, trapped forever in the misery of their past. The air is thick with sorrow, and those who visit often leave with a deep sense of unease, as though they have encountered something far beyond the living. 12. Mont Michelle, Normandy. Mont Michelle, an iconic site, was once used as a prison for political prisoners. Today, it is said to be haunted by the restless spirits of those who endured isolation and hardship within its walls. Visitors report strange fogs that roll in from the sea at night, obscuring their view of the prison. Ghostly figures are said to drift through the mist, their faces pale and filled with despair. The air around Mont Michelle feels heavy, as if the very stones of the prison are weighed down by the pain of those who suffered here. The isolation of the island and the harsh conditions the prisoners faced seem to have left a permanent scar, one that still lingers, making it one of the most haunted places in France. 13. Bastille Prison, Paris, site. Although the Bastille no longer stands, the site where it once stood is said to be haunted by the spirits of the prisoners who perished in its cells. People who visit the area often hear strange sounds, including cries and whispers, drifting on the wind. The overwhelming sadness and anxiety felt by those who walk the grounds of the former prison are palpable, as though the weight of history presses down on them. Many have reported feeling an unexplainable chill in the air, and some even claim to have seen the faint outlines of figures, shadows lingering where once the Bastille's walls stood. The spirits seem to remain, trapped by the dark history of the site, unable to find peace. 14. Chateau de Vincennes. Vincennes, the Chateau de Vincennes, once home to political dissidents and prisoners, is said to be haunted by the spirits of those who suffered and died within its walls. Visitors frequently report hearing ghostly footsteps echoing through the stone corridors, followed by the feeling of being watched. Cold drafts sweep through the rooms, and some have seen ghostly apparitions of prisoners pacing the towers, forever trapped in their sorrow. The chateau's past seems to hang in the air, thick with the pain and despair of those who were imprisoned here. The spirits are said to be forever bound to the place, their torment never ending. 15. Prison de Lasante, Paris. The infamous Prison de Lasante in Paris, once home to notorious criminals, is said to be haunted by restless spirits. Guards and inmates alike report hearing strange noises and feeling cold spots in the prison's dark, oppressive corridors. Some have seen ghostly figures lurking in the shadows, their forms barely visible, but their presence undeniable. Visitors to Lasante often leave with an overwhelming sense of dread, as if something sinister is watching them. The spirits of those who perished within its walls seem to remain trapped, seeking freedom they may never find, and their haunting presence continues to fill the prison with an air of palpable unease. These 15 most haunted prisons in France are more than just historical sites. They are the final resting places of spirits who refuse to leave. Whether you're drawn to the dark tales of torment and despair, or simply fascinated by the paranormal, these prisons stand as eerie monuments to the past. Remember, history doesn't always stay buried, and sometimes the ghosts of the past have a way of haunting the present. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more terrifying ghost stories and haunted locations.